Greetings and welcome to the Reparenting Daily podcast. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into reparenting, exploring all of the tools and resources that you'll need to help you along your journey. This podcast is divided into 3 sections. The first is a daily reading. The second is a discussion of the reading, followed by suggested journal prompts. And the last section is a peaceful meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you're joining us. I'm so glad you've joined us today on this journey of self-expansion and growth. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe this podcast wherever you're listening, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your help here really makes a huge difference in allowing us to spread the word and build a more supportive community as we continue with our self-reparenting. Now, before we get started, I have some quick updates for you. First, I'd like to introduce our Patreon community. Here, for a small monthly fee, you can join us for 3 weekly meetings for additional support with your reparenting journey. On Sundays, we have a meditation group. On Tuesdays, we have a book club discussion. And on Thursdays, we have open topic conversations. You can find out more details about this if you go to the Reparenting Daily website and check out on the community tab. In addition to that, we also have a WhatsApp group to foster more daily connection and support for whenever you need it. And this is a community of fellow travelers from around the world who will always be there when help is needed. It's just one of the many ways that we're building our network of resources that are really going to help support your reparenting journey. For the next update, I'm very excited to announce that I've just released some first books. The first is probably the most important, and it's called the Reparenting Daily Journal. Now, this journal is a daily guide for 365 days of the year. We'll be starting in 2025, and basically each month corresponds to a theme in reparenting, and each week of each month corresponds to a sub-theme of the monthly theme. Now, from the beginning of the year, 2025, each daily episode will correspond with the themes in the daily workbooks. And so you can use this as a guide to work through your reparenting journey to stay focused, ensuring that you cover all of the most critical areas within a year's time. And again, this will be aligning up with the podcast, so you can use both of these to make a more engaging and interactive experience. This is ensuring that you really book progress on your reparenting journey. The next set of books I've written is called Fairy Tales for Reparenting. This is a collection of 3 books that contain short stories or fairy tales inspired from Jungian analysis, mythology, philosophy, and psychology that really is targeted to helping you connect to your inner child. And so these stories are very short. They're not very long. They're written in a very simple manner so that it's not too taxing on you, so you can more easily connect with the joy and fun of your inner child. More interestingly, however, is that at the end of each story, there's an analysis section that really analyzes the main themes and concepts within each story to provide encouragement and inspiration. Additionally, you will find corresponding journal prompts after each story and each analysis section to help you reflect deeper on how the themes of each fairy tale can be reflected and correspond to your own personal journey as you work towards self-expansion. You can find all of these books now available on Amazon, so go ahead and give us a look and give us some support. And as I've mentioned before, this entire process of reparenting and self-expansion is really about growth, iterative change, and continuous improvement. Much like the process of nurturing the bonsai tree, our reparenting journey requires our consistency and care. So many thanks for being here and for supporting this project, and also to committing on your journey of self-expansion. Now, without further ado, let's dive into today's practice. Today's reading is an article entitled How Can I Forgive Myself? A Therapist Explains by Kendra Cherry. This is an article from Very Well Mind. This is a reminder we're in February, and the theme of the month is self-compassion and self-kindness. We're in week 2, which is February 8th until the 14th. And the theme of this week is recognizing self-kindness, or practicing self-kindness and self-forgiveness. This is the last day of week 2, and it's also Valentine's Day. So I hope you're treating your inner child to a lovely Valentine's Day gift. As we look at the article, how can I forgive myself? It's easier to forgive others than yourself, but you can learn how. Forgiveness is defined as a deliberate decision of letting go of feelings of anger, resentment, and retribution towards someone who you believe has wronged you. However, while you may be quite generous in your ability to forgive others, you may be much harder on yourself. Everyone makes mistakes, but learning how to learn from these errors, let go and move on and forgive yourself is important for mental health and well-being. Discovery why self-forgiveness can be beneficial, and explore some steps that may help you learn how to forgive yourself. Learning how to forgive yourself. Self-forgiveness is not about letting yourself off the hook, nor is it a sign of weakness. The act of forgiveness, whether you are forgiving someone or yourself, or you're forgiving yourself or someone who has wronged you, does not suggest that you are condoning the behavior. To forgive yourself, you should, number one, understand your emotions. Number two, accept responsibility for what happened. Number three, treat yourself with kindness and compassion. Number four, express remorse for your mistakes. And number five, make amends and apologize, including apologizing to yourself. Number six, look for ways to learn from the experience. And number seven, focus on making better choices in the future. Forgiveness means that you accept the behavior, you accept what has happened, and you are willing to move past it and move on with your life without ruminating over past events that cannot be changed. One therapeutic approach to self-forgiveness suggests that 4 key actions can be helpful. 4 R's of self-forgiveness are: number 1, responsibility; number 2, remorse; number 3, restoration; and number 4, renewal. Understanding your emotions. Becoming aware of your emotions, of the emotions you are experiencing, is an important part of learning to forgive yourself. Research has found that by identifying and labeling your emotions, you can help reduce the intensity of your feelings. This can help you feel better and better able to regulate your emotions, including those linked to feelings of guilt and shame. Accept responsibility for your actions. Forgiving yourself is about more than just putting the past behind you and moving on. It is about accepting what has happened and showing yourself compassion. Facing what you have done or what has happened is the first step towards self-forgiveness. It's also the hardest step. If you have been making excuses, rationalizing, or justifying your actions in order to make them seem acceptable, it is time to face up and accept what you have done. By taking responsibility and accepting that you are and that you have engaged in actions that have hurt others, you can avoid the negative emotions, such as excessive regret or guilt. Treat yourself with kindness and compassion. Forgiving yourself requires confronting your actions and showing remorse for what has happened. But it is important to approach this with self-compassion. The key is to treat yourself with the same kindness that you would show to another person. Try to avoid being self-critical and instead be compassionate while still acknowledging that you made a mistake and want to do better in the future. Express remorse for your mistakes. As a result of taking responsibility, you may experience a range of negative feelings, including guilt and shame. When you have done something wrong, it's completely normal, even healthy, to feel guilty about it. These feelings of guilt and remorse can serve as a springboard towards positive behavior change. While guilt implies that you're a good person who did something bad, shame makes you see yourself as a bad person. This can bring up feelings of worthlessness, which, left unresolved, can lead to addiction, depression, and aggression. Understanding that making mistakes that you feel guilty about does not make you a bad person or undermine your intrinsic value. Thank you. That's the reading for today. As always, I've only read a portion of this article. You can find the full link in the show notes, and I do encourage you to read that in your own free time as you complete the exercise for today. Thank you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now, this reading is crucial for the process of self-expansion, as well as developing self-kindness and self-forgiveness, because it highlights the importance of how self-forgiveness truly impacts your emotional healing. Many individuals who need to reparent carry deep-seated guilt and shame from their childhood, often stemming from experiences where they were blamed, punished harshly, or not given space to learn from mistakes with compassion. Learning to forgive oneself is a key aspect of reparenting, as it allows individuals to step out of cycles of self-punishment and replace them with understanding and growth. The process of taking responsibility, expressing remorse, and making amends while showing kindness to oneself mirrors the way a loving, supportive caregiver would guide a child. Instead of being trapped in self-judgment, reparenting teaches us to view mistakes as opportunities for learning, ultimately reinforcing the belief that we are still worthy of love and acceptance. Self-kindness is deeply intertwined with self-forgiveness because it challenges the internalized narrative that makes mistakes define our worth. Many people struggle with shame, seeing themselves as bad rather than as good people who made poor choices. This mindset creates emotional distress and can lead to self-destructive behaviors. However, by treating ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a friend, we shift our focus from self-condemnation to self-growth. The reading's emphasis on the 4 R's of self-forgiveness, responsibility, remorse, restoration, and renewal illustrates how self-kindness isn't about ignoring mistakes, but rather learning from them in a way that fosters healing and self-trust. By integrating self-forgiveness into our lives, we create a foundation for resilience, allowing ourselves to move forward without the burden of unresolved guilt or shame. As we look at the journal prompts today, number 1, what is the past mistake that I'm struggling to forgive myself for? How can I reframe it as a learning experience rather than a failure? Number 2, if I were to speak to my younger self about self-forgiveness, what would I say to help them release guilt and embrace kindness? And number 3, what does taking responsibility for my actions mean to me? How can I do so without falling into self-judgment? That's it for today. As always, thank you so much for being here. Please do take care of yourself and be well, and happy Valentine's Day. Welcome back. Now, this is the third and final section of the daily podcast. This is your silent meditation. Please find a place where you can be comfortable and undisturbed, where you can relax and spend some time with yourself for this 10-minute silent meditation. You can choose to be sitting, standing, lying down, or in whatever position makes you comfortable today. Just take some time to listen to yourself. Next, be sure that you are taking some time to be with your breath to connect with your body. Don't be disturbed or overwhelmed by your thoughts. Simply allow them to pass. Just observe them. Do not engage with your thoughts. Only be mindful of them passing as if they are drifting down a river. Use this time to connect with yourself. Whatever time of day you are listening to this, Namaste.